All right. Some people change the world and some people start a podcast. Guess which one we did. If you're listening to this, congratulations. You either made an excellent decision or a very questionable one. Gabe, welcome to the Dom and Gabe Show. We're recording a little day late, but hey, who's counting? Nobody cares, except it's, well, I don't know. We care. Because we want to try to stick to a schedule with this thing and try not to miss it. It's kind of the point.
Our hardest.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about, I don't know, stuff we watched, stuff we're reading, stuff we're thinking about, and I don't know, just be Dom and be Gabe for like a minute and see what happens.
Yeah.
Happy Tuesday. By the way, I'm still so just like your background just looks awesome with the hanging plant and then the Constitution. So it's like,
well, and I just noticed now that it's a wider screen, so I'm glad it captures still a good view because, quarter inch more that way.
Yeah. If I tilt my camera like quarter inch that way, you'll see the knife block and there's the microwave and all of that stuff. So I can pretend that I've got like a very nice setup.
That's what I have too. This is the finished side of the basement. That side's unfinished, but that's, we've talked about this before. This is life. There's a professional side and then there's a less professional side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
we
missed yesterday, but it's actually okay. We had, the craziness going on, and it's funny. I started my day going to the gym, trying to get into this routine of waking up, working out, or doing something that get a movement going. And I'm at the gym, and for the first time, this had never happened to me. I was on the treadmill.
Yeah.
I was doing a fast walk at that point. Luckily, I wasn't running. And as I'm walking, the power just cuts out. Have you ever been on a treadmill when the power cuts out?
What happens to your knee?
You just go right into. And the lady next to me, she was running, and she hit it hard.
Power went out for everything.
Yeah, just cut out. And I just hear the owner go like, "Hey, is everyone all right?" I look down. There's a lady who's probably 70, 80. She's still just pumping weights. Didn't stop for a second. She's like, "I don't need the lights to see. You can barely see anyways." I just thought it was so funny. I never had that just cut out power and then run into a treadmill. But it was only out for like 2 minutes, and then it came back on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
that's how my day started.
So I started with maybe some food poisoning. I think I had a bowl of rice that was an extra day too long in the fridge. So that wasn't too fun. So nothing too dramatic over there. But how about you? What are you watching these days? Like, we like to talk about movies. For those who've never seen this show before in your life, we're two nerds, two dads, delightful dorks. I like that.
Yes.
And we're trying to figure out life, and we work remote. And one of the ways we stay sane is by making our happy hour once a week a thing, and then we just share it with you because we're talking about this stuff anyway, and maybe you'll find it interesting, and maybe you'll get mad at stuff, or you'll, I don't know, buy us coffees, and we'll just talk more.
Great.
That'd be great. Yeah.
No, I went full dork and dweeb mode and didn't watch anything. But so my kids have been
we have to define the difference between nerd, dork, dweeb.
There is a difference.
There is a difference. I always forget there's like that perfect cartoon that differentiates it.
What is like nerds? I the way I always pictured it is like geek is smarts, intellect, encyclopedia, and nerd is like collectibles, trading cards, Pokemon. That's how I always thought it was, but I could be wrong.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which I most likely am.
And I think a dweeb is somebody who's socially inept, but probably smart.
And then a dork is somebody who
knows the difference.
Yeah, so I don't know what I kind of dance across those lines from time to time. But so our kids started playing with Pokemon cards and trading them and just having so much fun. And one day they were like, "Dad, are you gonna get Pokemon cards?" I mean, I used to have them when I was a kid, and I wish I still had them. Just they're worth a lot of money now, the original set.
Wow.
But they were just like, "Dad, are you gonna get some?" I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna get any." Blah blah. And then finally, they were just saying it so much. I'm like, why don't I get some? I don't know. So I went to a store and bought like 3 packs. They're like $4 each or $5 each.
Yeah.
I had some extra birthday money, so I used that, and I came back, and it was like I brought home like 1,000 puppies. Like, they were so lit up. They were like, "What? Dad's got Pokemon!" And so I opened them up, and they were like trading, and it was so fun to do.
That's cool.
But that's now opened up a little sliver in my, and I'm like, now I want to really go in and like
be competitive and stuff. I saw a reel, or it was a snippet from 300, and it shows Leonidas right before he's about to kick the emissary into the pit.
Yep.
And then the caption is, "Dad's playing with the kids," but then the kids start schnit talking back to the dad. They start talking it up, and Dad goes, and he looks back at his wife, and she goes, "Okay, like, you can stand up for yourself now." All right. go hard as competitive on the kids. Like they asked for it.
Can't let them crush me. I mean,
Yeah.
something.
Like, your dad's got to have his pride. Over the weekend, we were watching. I think Minecraft is releasing a new
The movie
version of the game. Well, there's the movie, and because of the movie, they're dropping updates for the game, and so there was a live stream, and so it's all kind of fun. And I used to play Minecraft a bit, but not so much anymore. And my little one does. What struck me about watching the live stream was, first of all, how old the people were, like grown-ups and grannies on some of them. You know, okay, there's young people too, but who are building this game and in love with this game, and they're all in Denmark and stuff. And so because their accent's a little different, so I pay a little closer attention for a minute. And it just strikes me how these are old people, in a sense. They're not kids.
Yeah. No,
and
they're
I'm
not
thinking
teens
like
or anything. Yeah.
average person playing Minecraft just seems to me like they're probably 11 through, I don't know, maybe 14, if that. So, one, to see adults playing it, it just reminds me how, one, the gaming community is very different to what it was in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then second, like what you just said, adults are the ones who created these games in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Why shouldn't we be able to...
Why shouldn't we enjoy the things we make?
Yeah, mess around with them and play with them, too.
Well, I was trying to think. It came out, I just looked up, it came out in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
So, or 2009. It released, the alpha build was released in 2009, 2011. So, that's, 14 years.
Wow.
Now. And so if you started playing that at 15, you're already 29. So it is like 30-year-olds or, even older. Like if you started playing at 21 in 2011, like, so it's funny that game, it's obviously that game stayed the same, but the people who've been playing it are getting older and older and older. So when you watch them, like, oh, this is the cohort of people who started it.
Do you guys play it at all?
Well, so my brother, I remember my younger brother played it a lot when it first came out. Mm-hmm. And then later on, when we all got I got a gaming PC and like, something I could do. Like, so we all got it again and played it. It never really caught on to me, even though I love world building games. I don't know. I just didn't like jive with it, but, every once in a while we'll play it. And then the kids like watching me play too. So it's like a family event excuse that I get to play.
You were playing something, gosh, what was it? Hogwarts Legacy for a minute.
I was playing a Hogwarts Legacy. That was beautiful. Then the most recently was Halo. So yeah, Steam released.
With them watching too?
Yeah, I don't know. You got to make a decision as a parent. I don't know. I just said
right. Okay.
But
I
like,
was thinking about all right, sorry, go ahead.
Steam released a sale. It was like you get all the four or five games for $10. I'm like, I cannot pass this.
Wow.
And all the original games, like Halo 1, which I don't know when that came out, they remastered the graphics and the sound.
Wow.
So, and you could toggle back and forth between the. It's just, it was insane playing, And it's cool to see, like, the games that were like elite and like state of the art back then. You watch now, it's like a bunch of potatoes with guns walking around. Like, there's no definition of anything. How do you know what's going on?
How are we so deluded back then? It's like
this is incredible. He looks like a person.
Oh gosh, yeah. For me, it's like that playing Counter-Strike. Like I'll I think that I mean, I haven't played enough other games like what are the other ones? I don't know. This PUBG or Modern Warfare or Call of Duty or something. I've never played any of those. So I've dabbled in Counter-Strike a little bit. I've tried playing the Halo PvP versions, and are we still connected here? Hey, are we back here?
Oh.
Testing. Think I lost you for a second. Okay, all right. And I think that just from like looking at how Counter-Strike has their PvP arenas,
yeah,
I find it very hard to play those. And mostly maybe just because my brain is dialed into like understanding Counter-Strike a little bit, and so that makes sense to me. But I don't know. Well, I'm totally out of the whole gaming thing for like, I don't know, almost a month and a half now.
Yeah, I know. It's such a this thing we're trying to do, like this balance of like, the what we're supposed to be doing and like, so I'll dip into video games. I'm a binge enthusiast. I don't know if that's good. Like, so like I'll play, if I find like Halo, so I played it like a bunch for a few days and then I'll hop off and do something else. Like Tiny Glade, when that came out, play that bunch for a few days and hop off. Like, so I don't typically have something that I stick to very long, which is fine. But like, I think that's most games. I'll just dip in and out.
Yeah.
But that's what they're there for. They're there to just dip in and out of.
Well, yeah. It's like there's some things in your life you like have to stick through, and then you can let off steam by getting into a bunch of other things. Was going to ask a question and I've forgotten what it was. So let's talk about movies. Have you watched anything recently that was kind of cool?
No, we finished out Traders.
Okay.
and all that. That was fun. Just those series are fun, and we're still watching reality shows like Survivor and Amazing Race. But for us, everything turns in 2 days. The Yankees opening day is coming up, so
Yeah.
that'll be probably the predominant thing we have on. As a family, we all like it, so it's just fun to watch. I don't know. Is there any sports that you liked growing up or like now?
No, we never had any of that growing up. My dad was a sports kind of heretic. So, yeah, we never watched anything or really got into anything.
What about any form of competition? Like, not even just traditional sports, like Olympics?
No, nope, not really. I mean, we just, for whatever reasons, we just didn't.
What about now? Was there anything that might...
No, good question. I have no idea. That'll be like a part of me to discover or to sort of get into. From the outside, I can begin to see maybe why I might care, but that's kind of from a philosophical side, and I know that that doesn't really last necessarily. So here I go. I think I know that for sports, it's that visceral connection of like seeing a battle happening or a war happening, a team you're rooting for. It's like watching the Avengers go down, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. So once, I can only remember one time we went to an actual baseball game in South Carolina, and I had never been to one.
Oh, wow.
And so the stands were packed, and we got some bad hot dogs, and we watched these teams and had no idea what the rules really were. I mean, we'd played the game a little bit in school and stuff, so I had a little bit of an idea of, what was going on.
Yeah, like an awareness, yeah.
Yeah, like for us, though, as kids, growing up kind of all over the world, kind of like a military family, growing up everywhere, to be able to do something that feels quintessentially American, like we had such a dopamine high coming off this thing, like this is our new identity.
We're Americans. We'll blend right in. Hello.
Yeah, exactly. That's how we sounded. And then we lost the British after a couple of months.
Yeah.
Because we were like chameleons. But we only did that once. And my wife thought that we were absolute baseball nuts because like each one of us at a different point would ask her, have you been to a baseball game? Because we'd never been to one before. And then she's like, man, they love baseball. Okay. And she doesn't really care either.
No, she's like, wow. It's incredible.
Yeah, so no, it's not really part of our culture. If anything, the only sort of thing that we did as kids was martial arts. So we did that maybe twice a week or once a week.
Okay.
But we tried doing it like competitively a couple of times. We never really watched anything, like shows or followed any specific people. So yeah, unfortunately, that's a whole side of me the world that I'm not into at all.
Untapped. Well, untapped potential, and it's funny you mentioned martial arts. When I was younger, I did judo. And so me and my brother, I did it with my cousin for a while. Then my older brother joined in a little later. And we stopped because the studio or the dojo closed down. I think it's hard to run those well if you don't have a lot of members. So, but we did it for a bit. And I remember I did, I think 1 or 2 competitions, and the last time I remember, my last competition, I was pretty tall for my age.
Okay.
And played a kid.
How tall are you, by the way? I'm guessing like 5'8".
Now?
Yeah.
6'1".
Okay. All right. All right. Good. Yeah, I'm like 5'9" or something, 5'10".
Oh, okay. Yeah. So when I was younger, I was taller, but like the weight class, I was still in I was very thin too. So like my weight class, I played with like smaller kids, and even especially younger kids too. So I remember my last competition. I look like I'm 13, and the kid looks like he's 8. I think we're probably like 11 and 9 or whatever. A little closer. Anyways, he smoked me. Like just like as soon as I was like, okay, I know I got my moves in my head. I'm gonna lapel grab, do the move, and he just was so like fiery and I think I'm not the one to like, throw a punch or like, not in literal sense, but like I was not as aggressive. And so I didn't know like how to like really like turn it on. So I just remember just getting like, smoked by this kid and standing up. I'm like, wow, that was different than practice. Just threw me over his hip.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But I did like that. I would do that again.
Cool. Yeah, I'm trying to think of this. I mean, if I could go, I'd love to do archery. I don't know if I would do it like competitively, but just as an activity. That's probably just because I loved Robin Hood as a kid.
Yeah.
So
it is fun.
I don't know if I'd want to keep doing it, but I think I'd like to try it.
I mean,
I got so annoyed one day. My sister, actually, she won one of the karate competitions that we went to or she placed really, really well or something. And so she got to go to a local archery event, shoot a bow. And of course, I begged to go with him, and I couldn't shoot anything. And it was annoying as heck to be like right there, right next to the bow and watching the arrows. And I'll go pick them up, but I couldn't fire the thing because it wasn't paid for me to do. Closest I got. Apart from building them, like extremely dangerous stuff that we would build on our own.
Build your own?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we were feral homeschool kids.
Take the elastics out of like an underwear band, like a prison inmate.
No, not that bad.
That far?
My mom would have killed us if we did, though.
Yeah.
But we did scrounge anything like humanly possible. I remember this one stupid time we call them flying foxes in Australia. It's like what do you call them? It's like zipline. In America, you call it zip lines. We do.
Us humans.
So I tried making a zip line, and for some reason we didn't have rope. Well, we kept using rope, but the rope would burn through, and then we'd fall, halfway down between the trees.
Yeah, because it's twine.
Right. So we used chain. Now the problem with chain is you can't just use a toilet paper roll or a piece of cloth or something.
Shreds.
You need something serious. And so I remember having this genius realization. There is a plastic tube cylinder that's part of the vacuum.
Dad's exhaust pipe.
My dad was not into cars, so that wouldn't have been a thing. But what we always would do, though, is pop the clutch on the cars because it was on a little bit of an incline. And okay, this 5-year-old kid, are you ready for some strength training? Okay, pop the not the clutch, the brake.
The emergency
and
brake,
yeah. And the minivan, it starts sliding down. You got to stand there and hold it, pretend to be Samson or Superman or something. It's
gosh,
until it starts getting too close. You're one hand pops up across the dashboard. Wait. Pull it back up again.
Good thing it's not in neutral. Jeez, the kids are gonna mow them over.
Well, it was that you do put it in neutral, so it starts sliding down. So you have to genuinely hold the thing back. Anyhow, good old days with stick shifts. Anyway, so we would tie the chain and then try to slide down holding onto that thing. And then very quickly, the plastic would burn and melt away on the chain. And it would end up, it had this massive kind of groove in it and from all the pressure. And I remember noticing that and thinking, crap, I really bought it now. And so take the whole thing apart and just quietly go put it back on the vacuum.
No one will notice.
Just pretend nothing happened.
On the vacuum.
Yeah, just put it right back on the vacuum and nobody will notice. The funny thing was, I genuinely don't remember there being any response to that at all. She took probably one look at that extension, whatever.
You know what? Whatever. Yeah.
I'm not even going there.
Not worth it. You got to pick and choose your
battles. What my kids have been up to where they melted 2 inches of plastic off the cylinder?
She had to pick and choose her battles. With 8 kids, it's that is the least of my concerns right now.
Yeah, her battle was keeping us off the roof.
She's like, she counts 8. It's like, you know what? They're all alive. Forget the vacuum.
Okay. So we used to get up on the roof every house that we were on because you could climb up the tree and then hop over and just walk around and sit on the apex of the roof. There. Total 90s, kids looking out at the great beyond.
And we felt like we were infinite.
Yeah. Well, there's this one hilarious time where we're all getting ready to go to mass on Sunday. And I don't know why I did it, but I got out on the roof and I had to do it. Only window that would open was in my mom's bathroom. So I'd hop out, and then she came in and started doing all of her makeup to get ready to go to mass. And she's yelling at everybody, you get your asses in the car or there will be hell to pay because we're all going to mass. And I'm stuck outside the window like Spider-Man. I can't go anywhere. I'm on the 2nd story. I can't get down to the ground because I have to go back through the bathroom, but she's there. And then my dad is now going around the house. And my dad is, there's moments where he's this hard ass old school small town Brazilian. He's got a belt, you do not cross my dad ever and stuff. And he's like, where's everybody? He starts yelling my name because I have a very specific seat in the van. So it's precious mounting. And I can't go anywhere. And last thing I want is Mr. Vic, the neighbor who used to give us eggs from his chickens, and he would hang them over the thing. And I start seeing him walking around. I know at some point he's going to look up and go,
just a normal day.
Yeah, just a crazy D'Souza kids. So I ended up climbing down a drain pipe and not breaking anything and keeping my suit clean. And then we jumped in the car, and that was that.
Oh, so you already had the suit on the second floor?
Full suit, full suit on. I thought I'll get out on the roof just for a minute. I don't even know why.
She needed a bit of fresh air.
Anyway, Where were we? So you were saying that
What was I
Yankee
saying?
season is starting up.
And so
Okay.
you get mind with the sport. So
Yeah.
it got me hooked. And then I remembered and then I saw one game live. I don't understand.
What do you mean by sports theory?
Sports theory, like, why does baseball, like, why do some people gravitate next?
Do you think it's cultural upbringing? And it's
I
like,
don't
do you
know.
bring associations? Like, my dad
Possibly.
loved it, or I love this character. Or is it
That's-
literally there's a feel or like a spirit to the game that pulls you? Yeah, it's interesting to. I mean, there seems to be a cultural element that's undeniable, in that if you grow up in your specific area and it's what you practice, what you play, and it's what you see, it makes sense. Those would be the battles. Those would that form of stuff. It makes sense. I could also see like baseball being the more aggressive, cricket. And if cricket is very like poised and stuff and held up as a
Yeah.
British ideal, like it's like, heck, I'm gonna swing this thing and we're gonna run like a heck of a lot more.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, there's this really fun movie called Lagan. I don't know if you ever watched it. I think we talked about it at one point, but it's called Lagan, and it's a
yes, we did
Bollywood
talk about it,
movie. It's awesome, and it's about British overtaxing during the colonial period of Indian history. So this might be like maybe 1850, I don't know, maybe 1850s or something. It's got to be around there. And there's one village that comes up to them and says, look, we cannot afford to pay the amount of taxation that you're demanding, or we can't give you the food or the animals or whatever. And the guy says, well, that's tough to be you. I guess you're just, going to die because you're going to have to pay. And then they're like, well, tell you what, why don't we play a wager? We'll beat you at your own game at cricket. And they had never played cricket before, ever. And so the Brits go like, yeah, we're winning that bet. And then we win. Well, sorry. When we win, we're taking the next 3 years worth of all your produce.
Man.
And so the tension is now insanely high for
Yeah.
the rest of this movie to, first of all, everybody hates the main character for accepting the wager, without their say so.
Why would you? Yeah.
But he's like
Insane
this,
odds.
dreamer, hard as nails kind of, well, actually he's not hard as nails, but he's like this bold dreamer who can understand things. And so he ends up discovering and learning how to play the game, and then teaching the whole village, and then they trounce the British at their own game. And it's based on a true story.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's got some of the best music. Like, it's got some of the best Bollywood music ever. Yeah. If you haven't, have you watched Brahmastra?
No.
So that's also, last couple of years, the Indian or Bollywood started trying to get into their own Marvel sort of universe.
Yes.
But they did it with all of their Indian gods. And
The soundtrack of it on Spotify.
it's the best soundtrack. And then you actually go to watch it. Like, that thing had me choking up and like almost in tears at the end. There is something primally beautiful about how Indians go about storytelling. And I don't think it's all storytelling, but there's just a couple for me that just like, we don't get this in the West.
No,
it's
we talk
different.
About,
but
stories that are like really like, that's what I thought about with Attack on Titan, like how I mean, it is like a fever dream of a watch. It's one of the.
I do think some of it is just
box.
some of it is just marketing. Like, once watching the first 2 episodes and then seeing how this is like watching, well, a very weird Spider-Man series in a medieval world. It's like, once I saw the tech and how the team functions together, and that just hooked me at that point.
I didn't. I was like, if I'm saying that right, probably not. And so
no, I'm not.
I will let you know, because it was like $4. So I bought it. And it's like, a storyline that's probably
Yeah, it goes.
I'll let you know how it
It's
goes.
a very deep thing. Yeah, that's very cool. Well, it's interesting. Like, you're talking about how they go weird places, or they switch back and forth with stories.
Yeah.
So I watched Wicked over the weekend, or no, yesterday. Have you seen it?
How'd you like it? Yes.
Okay. I'm still trying to make up my mind about it. Like, I liked a lot about it. I haven't seen the Broadway. I've known
Neither have
of
I.
it. I did grow up watching not only Wizard of Oz, but reading the books. Plus, Return to Oz was the one that we had on repeat because it was so weird. And it was like, Return to Oz is like, that one is weird, but cool.
Is that a movie?
Yeah. It's like a sequel, I guess, made by maybe a different studio. I don't know. All different characters, has none of the tone.
Really?
It's like it's like not a grimdark version of Wizard of Oz, but it kind of feels like that because it's a much
When
darker.
did that come out? Like, is it like a?
Oh gosh, maybe it came out in the 80s or 90s or something. Does it say when it came out?
85.
85. Okay. Looking back on that, I'm like, I don't know why my parents let us watch that one.
Wild.
But it's a bit
It
like
looks like a
Labyrinth
trip.
almost. We love those in the 80s. So, So yeah, Wicked. Here's what I loved about Wicked. It felt this version of the movie. First of all, the music. A lot of the music is just stunningly done. A lot of it I was hearing for the first time. The world way that they created the world, it's like this is like the ultimate sort of epic dream of what Oz could be.
Yeah.
And I loved that.
Yeah.
I loved
visually
the depth.
stunning. Yeah.
Gosh, it's just incredible. The story itself I thought was also really, really compelling. So I know because it was my attitude too for the longest time, to sort of hate this idea of the story on principle, because it deliberately subverted and reimagined the original story completely.
Yeah.
It's funny, I started watching Ben Shapiro like a couple hours ago while I was making breakfast, and his take on Wicked. And I thought it was funny, his opening line where he's like, normally I really hate it when people take classics of literature and subvert them just to bowdlerize them and stuff. And I thought, well, wait a second, who decided that Wizard of Oz is like a clique of Western literature? Because the limited sense that I have is that the first book started as some kind of a political social commentary on financial systems. I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard it repeated so many times that maybe there's something there. Although that doesn't mean anything anymore these days. Yeah. And then the rest of the story is just like, well, people bought that one. Let's just continue developing this world. And so he just, went into
ran with it. Yeah.
Living glass cats and a sorceress who can swap out her heads. And there's the Wheelers. My gosh, the Wheelers were our nightmare fuel.
This is Return to Oz?
Yeah, this is from Return to Oz. Friends, if you have seen that movie,
there's a therapist you could find.
1-800 don't
Better
call
help.
me.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was very cool to see little nods to the fact that this is actually a very weird and wild world that's been developed across multiple novels now. So visually, it just absolutely beautiful. It felt like Hogwarts.
Yeah.
Hogwarts brought to Oz. I think what I didn't like was the social commentary, and it felt very strong in the sense that I couldn't stop seeing that this whole thing was some kind of a commentary or reflection on modern culture, on our world, systemic issues, and so on.
Yeah.
Instead of being an actual story, that it just felt a bit at times
like a PSA ad
for a specific point of view.
Yeah.
Now, again, I'll say, get to the end of the movie, and I'm rooting for Elphaba, and I think it's really, really a powerful thing, who she is and how she stands up to everything. And so within the context of the story, setting aside the original story, and just going with this on its own terms, it's a fun story. I think it's got good things going.
We kind of know.
Right.
Pushed
it felt
into
very
that.
Dark Knight. Right?
Yes.
Like, what is that second movie? Dark Knight.
Yep.
I will be, what is it? If this culture needs me to be this, I'm going to go be that. It felt
Exactly.
very much like that for her character.
So,
and that is deliberately, that's a very, how do I say? It is a much more adult take. Now, that means this is not a fairy tale anymore, which the original story was some kind of a fairy tale. It hit some of the major notes of, existential themes and stuff like that. This is not that. This is an adult commentary of like, once you grow up, stuff gets gray and messy and whatever.
Yeah.
Here's my difficulty with it. And it starts from like the first few minutes, and it annoyed me because it ran the entire way through. The fact that there's nobody who is genuinely good, apart from maybe the Dr. Dilla, the goat, I forget his name.
Yeah.
Some of the animals were, genuinely good. But among the people, there is nobody who is like genuinely good. They're all self-righteous NPCs. That
It's
I
all
disliked.
relative.
Here's the problem with that is that, because the topic of narcissism for me is a very big prevalent topic, largely because I've had to deal with it a lot in my life. I'm trying very hard to be that kind of self-aware that doesn't end up becoming self-righteous and sort of fall back into narcissism again. So my wife and I have studied it a lot because we want to understand its effects on us and how you can so quickly or just blindly sort of fall into it. And there's a pandemic of narcissism, culturally accepted sort of levels of narcissism that we praise and lionize and valorize today. There's a whole question, how or why or what do you do about that? The problem with a narcissist is that they don't see other people as genuinely other people.
Yeah.
To a narcissist, everybody is an NPC. And they're all wrong, and I'm the only one who's right. Effectively, it's an extremely childish mindset, because a narcissist is technically a child who never grew up. They just got it like an adult body and adult responsibilities, but their actual sort of soul or spirit or child level stayed at a very immature level of development. And they've just become they can be ruthlessly or manipulative, stuff like that. Now, I'm not saying Elphaba is like that, but the way the story is told hits some of those notes in not ways I don't like, but they're ways that resonate with the worldview of a narcissist or somebody who's like a virtue signaling kind of justice warrior. When you look at everybody else and they're all virtue signaling because none of them are real, and there's nobody kind of breaking out of that. Glinda starts to break out of that. Glinda is very much she's not the bad person, but she's very much the person who needs to be like rescued or saved because she's so compulsively a horrible human being. And there's moments where she starts to break out. I think the moment where she goes to dance with Elphaba was like that right there, an insane amount of bravery, of real gratitude that broke through because she basically had the potential to burn all of her social capital in that moment. And so that very much is impressive. Yeah. But I'll wrap just in a second and I'll punt it back over to you. Trying to find where my thought was going. I'm like chasing it through the fog. But that annoys me because some of those are tones that you will see when you meet narcissists or you have to deal with them or they're in your family or whatever at work and stuff. The thing that also annoys me is that Elphaba's character is not created to be that way. No. I think she is genuinely a character who has had the cards stacked against her from birth. Like, literally, it is painful to be her. That's also why I have a very hard time with her self-righteous smirk throughout most of the story. It's like, your character is there is an incredible nobility to her character throughout almost the whole thing. Don't see it, the story didn't give it or honor that in a way that I think I would want. And maybe I'm wrong, but it's not what I was looking for when I look at her character and I see the complexity of the world, to have everybody in power be evil, basically, or stupid, and to have all of her peers be catatonic and just sort of out of touch of everything. I don't know. There's just notes or tones about the delivery of that soured the story for me, even though this is a world and an environment that I love. And this is another thought I won't get into. The idea that when you cage and partition animals and treat them that way, they lose not only a sense of dignity, but a coherence with the world. And that's like, that's a really interesting and beautiful reflection. All right. Sorry. You were trying to say something.
Them. And even like give her a chance. Right. So when you, feel like now.
Frozen, actually. What, you mean Wicked?
Yeah.
No, I would think that there definitely is. Like, her desire throughout the whole thing was to be normal and to have her skin ungreenified and ungreeniated. And then that has been her life's desire, her entire life, until she finds somebody who needs more help, more than she does. And it's in that moment that she sacrifices that. And then after that is tasked.
What did she sacrifice? I must have...
The chance to have her skin turned pink or normal, to be perceived, or not pink, brown, whatever, to be normal as opposed to being green. So first she makes that sacrifice, and then when she recognizes, like at the end, she goes full Dark Knight and realizes the only way that I can be the good person that this situation demands is for me to completely break out of this entire system. There is a point, not a point, that can be really, how do I say this? That part really connected with me. Okay, I recognize this is part one, and there's still a part two coming out later this year, and I don't know exactly where the rest of the story goes. Okay, I read a little bit of Wikipedia before I call you to understand, like, where are you going with it? It is its own story. I think we'll just stop trying to make it Wizard of Oz, make it make sense. But where was I trying to go with this? I resonated a lot with that because in my life, I was in a very rigorous Catholic, cult fringe situation, and the entire world was defined very much the way all the good people were. And the difficulty for my life was to kind of begin to wake up and realize all of the people that I'm canonizing in my life, they're actually human. I kind of think they're wrong. I'm no longer convinced that they're actually right. And so then came a moment where I had to pull a stab like that and walk away from absolutely everything and burn every single bridge and just go. And so I absolutely felt like I am definitely bonding with my dark side. I am becoming the bad guy here as far as they are all concerned. And I'm walking out of the fold and leaving all the beauty and the family and the light and the warmth and the food and everything behind. And I'm walking out into the darkness. So that feels very, very real, in terms of that story for me. So I can understand that. Now, here's the problem. It's a very narrow view of reality to then lump everybody into that sort of Venn diagram, and I'm the only sort of good thing left, it's a very childish response. And the major thing I've had to learn is that I've had a poor sample set out of the larger set of what humanity is. There are a lot of very good people. There are people who are stuck, especially it's very hard in cults, whether they want to or not. There is a loss of autonomy, a loss of individuation, a loss of personal freedom, of free thinking, or a loss of an ability to freely choose to follow things like social norms and so on. In cults, there's no freedom to choose. You must do it, or you are burned, or kicked out, or life is made horrible, or whatever. And in extreme cases, of course, worse things happen. Thankfully, not in my case. I'm not one of those. Wasn't one of those cults. But to assume everybody is like that it's a dangerous position to be in, because, well, it kind of goes to what point you were saying, which is, therefore, if everybody is evil, have to do what's right for me, therefore it's okay for me to manipulate and do whatever I need to do because I must serve me. And so as Catholics, or as Christians, and the path that we're trying to walk, the number one person that we're doing battle with on the daily is our own compulsive need to be not just the hero, but to be good and to be self-righteous, as opposed to, I hope I'm right. I want to be right. It's like somebody once asked, Tim Staples, like, "Are you saved, brother?" And he's like, "Well, I am saved. I'm being saved, and I hope to be saved."
Yeah.
All three at the same time, and it's just ongoing, So, there's a lot of, especially the whole Munchkins thing at the beginning of the movie. It felt very much like a snarky commentary or dig on, and it's well earned, on Christian fundamentalism, or just Christian parishes and so on, where everybody takes a lot of pride on, we are good, and this is how you are, and everybody's bad, lives a horrible life, but I'm just thinking, what happens to any of the Munchkins who F the system and want to do things a bit differently and go and have an adventure and find Smoke, and what happens to those Munchkins? I bet that they're kicked out, and there's a story. Well, it is. I mean, that community is exactly the same community. Oh, Redwall?
Yes.
Yeah.
Redwall.
Man, that's a good question. For me, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit was not a thing until I was much older. I mean, Narnia was a huge deal for me because it was the only one that I knew of or kind of had. Yeah.
Yep.
So that one I spent a lot of time in Narnia. Chronicles of Prydain by Lloyd Alexander. Yeah. So that's a very deep Welsh mythic world. And it's got more of the grit and the darkness and the humor of, I could say, the Welsh people, but I don't know that too well. The author himself absolutely loved the Welsh world and Welsh mythology, and so he crafted this. Tonally, it's very different.
Cool.
It's a very cool series. I think it's 5 books. Very much a hero's journey kind of thing. So I did love that one. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any more right now beyond a smattering of a ton of different books. I was the kid in the neighborhood with a library of 300 books, and then I would lend them out to other people, and I took
Matilda. Well, no, she went to the library every time.
Yeah, she went to the library. Never had Matilda. My parents didn't know what to do with Roald Dahl. Beyond Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, they didn't know what to do.
That was safe, but after that,
because chocolate.
Magic.
Yeah. So I had a very wide variety of all kinds of different books and boys' adventures, and I read everything from boys' books and girls' books, and loads of story collections and Reader's Digest, and there was not a lot of fantasy growing up because my parents also didn't know what to do with it, and maybe back then there wasn't as much. So the books tended to be a little more realistic in terms of
like Treasure Island, Robinson.
Yeah, a lot of classics. The Adventure series with Hal and Roger. Enid Blyton was a big deal. She's a British author. She wrote I think 400 novels for kids. So Trixie Belden. But in terms of books that really, really impacted me, I can't actually think of any right now. I'll have to think about that. We'll come back to that one. How about you? Oh, well, okay. Then
so intriguing.
Okay, War of the Worlds then. I never knew why. I would reread and reread that book. My dad also got me a book. It was a big, thick one. It was called Rivals of H.G. Wells.
Oh.
And so at the time when he was being successful, he had all of his, all of the other authors writing fan fiction or trying to, break out and make it successful like him. And so it was a compilation of all of the other serials of a ton of other authors. And so there's moments where I feel like a lot of my early sci-fi sort of formation is very much H.G. Wells and his world of his contemporaries. And there's a lot of very weird philosophical depth that they were trying to figure out. So my sci-fi was not Star Wars and Star Trek, but it was very much H.G. Wells and John Wyndham, who wrote also extremely weird and intriguing stuff. And then I got into Arthur C. Clarke and loved that. Also, that probably just scratches my personal philosophical itch. Not so much Isaac Asimov, who's father of modern sci-fi. Arthur C. Clarke has just
is it the trilogy? Yeah,
never read. I'm still trying to watch season 2 of it.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah,
on Apple, but. Yeah, no, for me, a lot of the books and stories, movies and things that really have like gripped me all happened second half of life as I kind of got out of things and started getting into figuring out like, what did I miss out on? Start watching everything. And,
I know.
And at this point, I'm like, there's now too many to even start to make sense of.
I know.
Okay.
The book was so...
Yeah.
so
wait,
or something.
What?
Yeah.
Really? For comedy?
Some odd word for with some... I am hungry. And like, it's like, I like The Breakfast Club. I like... the one that comes, so there's a movie Buried. We've talked about this before with Ryan Reynolds. I
don't think I've seen it.
And then just fascinating to think of a whole story.
Lady in the Water takes place in just one location.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, it's been ages since I saw it. Shyamalan movie. Today we call that Joe Rogan podcast. Yeah, agreed. Sure.
But
also, not every book actually needs to be written or read all the way through.
In its entirety. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. For me, it's still a kind of moment of freedom, although I have a hard time committing to it, which is, nobody's looking over my shoulder and I'm not going to actually get punished if I don't slap finish you on the head. So I don't actually have to. Yeah. Well, anyhow. Well, we should probably wrap. I was going to ask about like work-life balance. Is it a myth? How are we making sense of it? We'll have to come back maybe next week.
Yeah.
Talk about that. But yeah, I can't. We completely forgot. Man, you're sneaky. Just slipping past. Week after week, just throw it in at the end and like dive out the window. Oh, my commitments. I think it's kind of hilarious. Like Lent being a thing, and it's like I just got past forgetting my New Year's resolutions. I just started feeling good about my life, and now you bring it back.
Taking everything away. Yeah.